The sun rose slowly over the crystal mountains of Velora, painting the sky in soft gold and pink. At the edge of a cliff, Carveth, an ancient dragon, lay resting. His scales, once bright and fiery, had dulled with age. His wings, strong and wide for centuries, now felt heavy and tired. Carveth had lived longer than any creature in the world. He had seen cities rise and fall, watched stars travel across the skies, and listened to the wind sing through the mountains. Now he felt ready to let go, to rest, and to disappear quietly into the world he had watched for so long. For centuries, Carveth had avoided humans. Most feared him, some tried to capture him, and a few had even challenged him. He had seen their courage and their mistakes, their kindness and their cruelty. But over time he had grown tired of watching, tired of waiting. There were no other dragons left, no friends to share the skies with, no voices to call to him. He had grown silent and lonely, and he had decided that his life had reached its natural end. As he gazed across the valley, his golden eyes caught movement in the mist below. A small figure was walking carefully, slowly making its way through the morning fog. It was a human boy, no older than 12, with messy hair and eyes wide with curiosity. The boy carried a small satchel over his shoulder, and his steps were cautious, almost as if he knew the dragon was watching. Carveth observed quietly, his massive body blending with the cliffs, his heart untouched for so long by anything but time itself. The boy stopped at the edge of the cliff, not far from where Carveth rested. He did not scream or run. He only stared up at the dragon with eyes full of wonder and a hint of fear. The wind blew softly, rustling the boy's clothes and carrying the scent of the mountains. Carveth felt something strange, an old feeling he had not experienced in centuries. The boy's small presence was calm and steady, and there was no greed or anger in his gaze. For the first time in many years, Carveth felt noticed. Are you going to die?" the boy asked, his voice soft and trembling. The question was simple, innocent, yet it carried a weight Carveth did not expect. Most humans either shouted, attacked, or ran, but this one asked quietly, almost politely, as if he were talking to an elder, not a monster. Carveth tilted his massive head, studying the boy. He had not spoken aloud in many years, but the words came easily, though they sounded deep and slow, like stones rolling in a distant canyon. "I think it is my time," he replied. His voice rumbled across the valley, gentle yet full of centuries of life. "The world has grown quiet for me. My wings tire. My eyes grow dim. I have lived long, perhaps too long." The boy stepped closer, though carefully, keeping a safe distance. "But, don't you want to live? Even just a little longer?" he asked, his eyes searching Carveth's face as if he could find an answer there. The boy's courage, though small, shone brightly against the dragon's loneliness. It was not fear that moved him forward, it was something far braver. It was care. It was hope. Carveth exhaled slowly, a warm breath that stirred the mist. He looked down at the boy, and for a moment, the ancient dragon allowed himself to remember what it had been like to feel needed, to be watched with trust, to matter to someone. His life had been full of battles and storms, of fire and ice, of lonely skies. But he had never known this gentle curiosity, this quiet bravery. It was strange, almost painful, yet comforting. For centuries, no one had reached out to him with kindness. Now, here was a small human, offering nothing but a question, a small presence in the vast world, and yet it meant more than any treasure or victory Carveth had ever known. The boy's hand trembled slightly as he reached toward the dragon's claw. Carveth watched silently, unsure what to do. His claws had crushed mountains and forests long ago. They had defended kingdoms and territories, fought enemies both strong and cunning. And now, a human boy wanted to touch them, not to harm, not to steal, not to conquer, but simply to connect. It was an unfamiliar feeling, and Carveth felt a strange warmth in his chest. It was small, faint, but alive. Hope. Care. Something he had not felt in centuries. Carveth lowered his massive head slowly, allowing the boy's hand to brush his claw. The touch was light, almost feather-like, yet it carried courage, trust, and honesty. The dragon closed his eyes briefly, savoring the moment. Memories of old skies, distant mountains, and long-forgotten friends returned in a flood. He remembered laughter that had not been heard in centuries, sunlight on his wings, the smell of the wind, the quiet peace of companionship. For a creature who had been ready to die, to vanish without a trace, it was as if life had returned in that small, gentle touch. The boy smiled, sensing the change. "You don't have to go yet," he said softly. "I can stay with you. We can find something new, together." The words were simple, but their meaning was vast. For the first time, Karvith felt the pull of life not as a burden but as a gift. It was fragile, yes, but full of possibilities. A human child, small and fearless, had reminded an ancient dragon that even at the edge of the world, there was still hope. There was still life. There was still tomorrow. The sun climbed higher in the sky, shining on the dragon and the boy. The mountains glowed with colors that seemed brighter than before, the wind sang softly through the cliffs, and Karvith felt a stirring in his heart. He had been ready to die, but now he felt something he had forgotten in centuries. The desire to live, to explore, to see the world once more, not alone but with someone who cared. Karvith opened his eyes, golden and bright, and looked at the boy who had changed everything with a single hand. A small smile touched the corner of the dragon's mouth, almost invisible but real. For the first time in 1,000 years he felt alive, not because the world demanded it, but because a small human boy had reminded him why life was precious. The dragon lifted his head, feeling the wind in his wings, the warmth of the sun, and the tiny but powerful hand that rested on his claw. A new dawn had arrived, not just for the world but for him. The last dawn he had expected to face alone was now the first dawn of something new. Eli the boy did not move away from the dragon. He stood a few feet from Karvith, looking up with wide eyes. Fear did not show in his face. Instead there was curiosity, wonder, and something stronger, courage. He had seen dragons in stories, in pictures, in old tablets, but nothing in books had prepared him for a real dragon so close. And yet he did not run. He only asked questions. Questions that no one else had asked before. Questions that were not about treasure, power, or fear but about life itself. Why are you going to die? Eli asked, his voice soft but steady. Aren't dragons supposed to live forever? Karvith's golden eyes softened. He had heard humans say that dragons were immortal, that they could live through centuries without worry. It was a myth, though one he had once believed himself. Dragons lived long, yes, longer than humans, longer than many creatures, but not forever. Time touched even the strongest scales, the widest wings, and the sharpest claws. Karvith had felt centuries pressing down on him like a heavy stone. His body was tired. His mind was tired. His spirit had been quiet for too long. I am old, little one, Karvith said, his voice low like distant thunder. Older than anyone can imagine. I have flown over mountains, swum through rivers of fire, watched stars fall, and seen worlds change. My wings tire. My eyes grow dim. And my heart has grown quiet. It is time. Eli thought for a moment. He had never heard anyone speak like this before. No teacher, no elder, no parent had ever explained life so clearly. But, don't you want to see tomorrow? He asked. Even just one more day? One more sunrise? Karvith looked at the boy, a smile almost touching the edges of his mouth. The human had courage, a strength he did not expect from someone so small. Most humans ran from him, hid, or screamed. This one walked closer. This one asked about life, not death. And there was something in the boy's eyes, something that reminded Karvith of a time long ago when dragons still roamed the skies freely, when he had friends, when laughter had not been a memory but a sound in the wind. I do not know, Karvith said honestly. I thought I wanted to rest, to leave quietly. But now, I feel something I have not felt for centuries. I feel alive. Eli stepped even closer, his small hand trembling slightly. Then don't go, he said. Stay with me. We can find something new. You don't have to be alone. The boy's voice was simple, but it carried warmth, hope, and determination. Karvith had not expected a human to give him such a gift. He had not expected kindness. He had not expected friendship. The dragon lowered his massive head, letting the boy's hand touch his scaled cheek. The scales were cool, strong, and smooth under Eli's small fingers. Karvith closed his eyes briefly, savoring the connection. Memories of the skies, the clouds, and the sun returned like old friends. He remembered flying over golden forests, resting in silent valleys, and listening to the laughter of dragons long gone. For the first time in centuries he did not feel alone. Do you really want me to stay? Karvith asked, his voice quieter now, almost gentle. Yes, Eli said simply. I don't want you to be alone. I want to see the world with you. I want to fly with you. I want to know the sky like you do. The dragon studied the boy carefully. Humans were fragile. One wrong step, one moment of carelessness and they could be hurt. And yet Eli's eyes shone with bravery. He was small, yes, but strong in heart. Stronger than many adults who had faced Karvith before. There was no fear, only trust. And trust, Karvith realized, was rare. More rare than fire, more rare than wings, more rare than gold. I cannot promise the skies will always be safe, Carveth said slowly. There are storms, winds, and mountains that can crush even the strongest. And you are small. I am not afraid, Eli said firmly. I want to see everything with you. I want to feel the wind, the clouds, the stars. I want to live a little more. His voice trembled slightly, but it was strong. Carveth could hear the courage in it, the honesty, the hope. The dragon exhaled a warm, slow breath. The mist swirled around them, carrying the scent of the mountains and the morning sun. Carveth felt a spark, small but powerful, in his heart. Hope, life, connection. Something he had not felt in centuries. He had been ready to die, but now he wanted to see what tomorrow could bring. Not alone, but with this small, fearless human who had walked to him when no one else would. Eli smiled, and Carveth felt a weight lift from his heart. He had been carrying centuries of loneliness, and one small hand had reminded him of life. The world was still vast, the skies still open, and the wind still free. And for the first time, Carveth did not feel ready to give up. He felt alive. The sun climbed higher, shining through the mist and touching the dragon's silver scales. The morning light felt new, fresh, and warm. Carveth lowered his head slightly, letting Eli touch his claw carefully. The warmth of that small human hand spread through him, and he felt the stirrings of something he had almost forgotten. The joy of life, the wonder of the world, and the hope of new beginnings. I will stay, Carveth said finally, his deep voice echoing through the valley. If you wish it, I will stay. And together, we will see what is still out there. Perhaps life is not over yet. Eli's eyes sparkled with excitement. Yes. Together, he said, smiling widely. We will see everything. The dragon's heart lifted as he looked down at the boy. The last dawn he had expected to face alone was now bright with possibility. The world was not just a place to rest in silence. It was a place to explore, to discover, to share. And for the first time, Carveth felt something that had been missing for centuries. The promise of friendship, the spark of hope, and the warmth of life renewed. As the sun climbed over the mountains, Carveth and Eli stayed on the cliff, looking at the valleys and rivers below. The boy's hand rested lightly on the dragon's claw, and the dragon's head was lowered gently toward him. Neither spoke for a while. The wind whispered around them. The clouds moved slowly. And in that quiet moment, two unlikely friends realized that life had more to give than either had expected. The dragon was no longer ready to die. And the boy had shown him why. The morning grew warmer as the sun climbed higher over the mountains. Carveth's scales glimmered under the light, reflecting silver and gold like rivers of molten metal. He had never noticed how bright the world could be when seen through the eyes of someone small and curious. Eli, the human boy, stood near the dragon's claw, his hand still resting lightly on it. The connection was quiet but strong, as if the touch itself carried a message that neither words nor time could convey. For centuries, Carveth had wandered alone. He had flown across skies that stretched forever, dived into forests untouched by humans, and swam through rivers that no one else had seen. He had seen civilizations rise and fall, stars burn out, and mountains crumble. Yet, despite all that, he had never felt the warmth he now felt from Eli's small hand. It was not fire or magic but something deeper, hope. Something that could heal the emptiness of centuries. Do you really want to stay with me? Carveth asked, his voice deep, soft, and uncertain. The words rolled slowly, like distant thunder over the cliffs. He had never trusted a human like this. Most humans feared him, some tried to harm him, and a few had shown him respect only to gain something in return. Eli was different. He had approached Carveth without fear, without greed, without expectation. He had only offered presence and care. Yes, Eli said simply, his small chest rising and falling as he took a deep breath. I want to see the world with you. I want to fly with you, to feel the wind, to see the stars. I want to learn from you. His voice wavered slightly, but it was firm. The boy's courage was small but strong, like a candle glowing in the dark. Carveth lowered his massive head so the boy could look into his eyes. He had seen many humans over the centuries, but none had looked at him this way. There was no fear, no anger, no desire to control him. There was only honesty and trust. For the first time in 1,000 years, Carveth felt the weight of loneliness lift just slightly. A spark had been lit inside him, one he had not known he still had. You are brave, Carveth said. Most humans would run from me. Most would scream or hide or try to take what I have. But you do not fear me. You only care. Eli smiled, but it was a small, thoughtful smile. I don't think you should be alone, he said. Not when the world still has so much to show you. And not when I can help you see it. The dragon exhaled slowly. The warm wind brushed past his wings, rustling the mist that clung to the cliffs. Carveth had forgotten how small gestures could mean so much. He had been ready to die, ready to fade into the mountains and the clouds, yet here was a human boy, offering him a reason to stay, to live, to move forward, to feel the world once more. Carveth lowered his massive claw so that Eli could place his hand fully upon it. The boy's touch was soft, but it carried a courage that no blade or fire could match. The dragon felt a wave of warmth pass through him. Memories long buried began to stir, memories of flying over golden forests, of resting under starlit skies, of moments of laughter and companionship that had been lost to time. For the first time in centuries, Carveth did not feel tired. He felt alive. I do not understand why you would do this, Carveth said, almost in wonder. Why would a human risk so much to stay near a creature that could crush him with one claw? Eli shrugged, but his eyes never left the dragon's. Because you matter, he said simply. Even if no one else sees it, even if the world forgets, I see it. You are alive and that matters. You don't have to be alone anymore. Carveth lowered his head further until his nose nearly touched the boy. The warmth of the morning sun, the softness of the wind, and the strength of the boy's small hand filled him with a feeling he had not felt in centuries. Hope. He had thought he was ready to die, that the world no longer needed him, that he was only a relic of the past. And yet, one small human boy had reminded him that life could still be beautiful, that the world could still surprise him, and that even the oldest creatures could find companionship. The mist began to lift as the sun rose fully over the mountains. Rivers sparkled below, forests swayed gently in the breeze, and the sky stretched wide and open, full of promise. Carveth felt the stirrings of adventure, of movement, of life. He had lived long and seen much, but he had never felt the excitement of discovering the world alongside someone who truly cared. Eli grinned, his eyes shining. We can see everything, he said, almost whispering but full of determination. We can fly over mountains, swim in rivers, sleep under the stars. You and me, together. The dragon felt something inside him shift. The warmth from the boy's hand spread through his chest like a gentle fire. For the first time in centuries, he felt more than just survival. He felt joy, wonder, curiosity. He had been ready to leave the world behind, but now he wanted to see more of it. Not alone. Not as a relic. Not as a forgotten creature. But as a dragon with a friend, a companion, and someone to share the skies with. Carveth stretched his wings carefully, testing their strength. The wind rustled past them, lifting the mist and carrying the scent of mountains and flowers. The boy's hand never left his claw. The dragon could feel the trust, the hope, and the courage in that touch. It was a quiet power, stronger than any fire, sharper than any claw. It reminded him why he had flown for so long, why he had lived through so many centuries, and why he could not give up now. I will stay, Carveth said finally, his voice steady and deep. If you wish it, we will face what is out there together. Perhaps life is not over yet. Perhaps there is still more to see. Eli laughed softly, a sound full of excitement and relief. Yes. Together, he said. We will see everything, Carveth. I promise. The dragon looked down at the boy, feeling the first true warmth of companionship in centuries. The morning sun shone brighter, the mist cleared, and the mountains seemed alive with possibility. Carveth realized that life had given him another chance, not because he deserved it, but because someone had reached out, simply and bravely, with a hand and a heart full of hope. And so, the dragon who had prepared to die began to feel alive again. And the boy who had walked into his world without fear had become his first true companion in centuries. Together they stood on the cliff, feeling the wind, the sun, and the promise of adventure. For the first time, Carveth did not feel the weight of the centuries. He felt the pull of life, the spark of hope, and the joy of a new beginning. Carveth stretched his enormous wings slowly, feeling the wind brush against the edges of his scales. It had been centuries since he had moved like this, centuries since he had flown freely without a care in the world. The mountain cliffs below looked smaller than he remembered, the valleys deeper, the rivers brighter. The dragon's body was still strong, though not as powerful as in his youth, yet the fire of life had returned to him, sparked by the courage of one small human boy. Eli stood close to Carveth's claw, his eyes wide with excitement and a little fear. He had never been near a dragon this big, this old, this magnificent. But he did not back away. His hand still rested gently on Carveth's claw, giving both courage and comfort. The boy had been brave enough to walk into the dragon's world without weapons, without threats, and with nothing but a wish to see the world. And now, Carveth felt something he had not felt in centuries, A desire to share the skies, the mountains, the rivers, and the stars with this human. Do you understand what you are asking? Carveth asked, his deep voice rumbling across the cliffs. The world beyond these mountains is vast and full of dangers. There are storms that can break wings, winds that can throw a human off balance, mountains that hide hidden dangers, and rivers that run faster than they seem. You are small. One wrong step and you could be hurt. Eli lifted his chin, looking into the dragon's golden eyes without fear. I know, he said simply. But I want to see everything. I want to know what it feels like to fly, to see the world from above, to touch the clouds. I don't want to be afraid anymore. I want to be with you. His voice was firm but gentle, full of a determination that made Carveth pause. Humans were fragile, yes, but this one had courage that could move mountains. Perhaps even dragons. Carveth lowered his massive head until his nose nearly touched the boy. He studied him carefully, looking at his bright eyes, his steady hands, and his unwavering expression. He could see the hope in Eli's heart, the trust he offered, and the friendship he desired. The dragon had been alone for centuries, but now he realized something. Companionship could heal the oldest wounds, courage could spark new life, and trust could remind him of why the world was worth living in. Very well, Carveth said slowly. If you truly wish to see the world, if you truly wish to face it with me, then I will carry you. But you must hold tight and you must trust me. One wrong move and... His voice trailed off, for there was no need to finish the warning. Eli already understood the risks. I will hold tight, Eli said firmly. I trust you. With a careful motion, Carveth lowered his massive back to the ground. The boy climbed onto it carefully, guided by the dragon's steady movements. Eli's small hands clutched gently at the thick scales around Carveth's neck. The dragon flexed his wings, testing their strength, feeling the air lift him slightly. Then, with a deep breath, he spread his wings wide, and the wind began to lift them both into the sky. The first flight was slow and cautious. Carveth kept close to the cliffs, circling above the valleys and forests below. Eli's eyes shone with amazement. He had never seen the world like this. The rivers sparkled like silver threads, forests swayed like oceans of green, and the mountains stretched endlessly, each peak crowned with morning light. The boy laughed, a soft, joyous sound, and Carveth felt warmth in his chest. It was a sound he had not heard in centuries. It was a sound that reminded him why life could be beautiful. You were right, Eli said, gripping the dragon tightly. It's amazing up here. I can see everything. Carveth chuckled softly, a sound that rumbled through the air like distant thunder. Yes, he said. It is. And there is still much more to see. Much more than you could imagine. The world is larger than even my memory can hold. They flew higher now, circling above the mountains, feeling the wind push against their bodies. The boy's hair whipped in the breeze, his eyes wide with wonder, his heart racing with joy. Carveth felt alive in a way he had not in centuries. The spark Eli had given him was growing stronger with each beat of his wings. The dragon who had been ready to die now felt the thrill of life coursing through him again. I think we will be friends forever, Eli said softly. You and me. No matter what we see, no matter where we go. Carveth looked down at the boy, golden eyes meeting brown eyes filled with trust. Yes, he said, his voice steady and deep. We will face the skies together. We will see what the world holds. And perhaps, together, we will find something even I did not expect, joy. The wind carried them farther, across valleys and rivers, over forests and hills. The sun shone brighter, warming the dragon's scales and the boy's face. Carveth felt a deep happiness he had not known for centuries. For the first time he understood that life was not only about surviving, not only about time, but about who shared it with you. The boy had come to him when he was ready to give up, and now together they would explore the skies, the mountains, and the unknown world beyond. Eli laughed again, and Carveth felt a rumble of joy in his chest. Look, over there. A waterfall, the boy shouted, pointing toward a distant valley where a river fell in sparkling sheets. Carveth angled his flight, gliding closer so Eli could see the water dance in the sunlight. The beauty of the world, once taken for granted, now felt new and vibrant. And as they soared higher, Carveth realized the truth. He had been ready to die, but life had given him a second chance. Not because he deserved it, not because the world asked for it, but because one small human boy had reached out, fearless and kind, and reminded him of what it meant to live. The dragon and the boy flew together, side by side, over mountains, rivers, and forests. A new adventure had begun, one neither of them could fully imagine. Yet both knew one thing for certain. Together they could face anything. The world was vast, the skies were open, and life was waiting. And for the first time in centuries, Carveth felt not the weight of age but the lightness of hope. The sun was high in the sky, shining brightly over the valleys and mountains below. Carveth and Eli flew side by side, their shadows moving across the forests and rivers like long dark rivers themselves. The wind rushed past them, carrying the scent of flowers, trees and distant waters. Carveth felt alive in a way he had not in centuries. Every beat of his wings, every gust of wind, every glance at the sparkling world below reminded him that life was not over. He had been ready to die, but now life had returned, vibrant and full of possibility. Eli clung carefully to the dragon's back, his small hands gripping the smooth scales. His heart raced with joy and excitement. The world stretched endlessly before him, larger than any story or map had ever shown. Mountains rose like giants, rivers glimmered like silver threads, and forests swayed gently under the sun. The boy had dreamed of flying, but nothing had prepared him for the beauty, the vastness, and the freedom of it. "Look!" Eli shouted, pointing toward a wide valley below. "There's a lake, and the water sparkles like diamonds." Carveth angled his flight gently, gliding closer so the boy could see the lake. The water reflected the sunlight, creating patterns that danced and shimmered across the surface. Carveth had seen countless lakes over the centuries, but with Eli's excitement, even the simplest sight felt magical. The boy's wonder reminded him that life could be new, even after centuries of experience. "You see it?" Carveth rumbled softly, his deep voice carrying over the wind. "Even after all my years, the world still holds beauty. And it is more special when shared." Eli nodded, his eyes wide. "Yes, and we will see even more. Mountains, forests, rivers, maybe even the stars tonight." The dragon smiled gently, feeling warmth spread through his chest. For centuries, he had watched the world alone, expecting to fade quietly into the mountains and clouds. But the boy had changed everything. He had reminded Carveth that life was worth living, that the skies were meant to be shared, and that hope could be found even in the oldest hearts. As they continued flying, Carveth's mind wandered. He thought of the centuries he had lived, the friends he had lost, the battles he had avoided, and the quiet skies he had known. And now, for the first time, he did not feel the weight of the years. He felt the joy of life, the thrill of exploration, and the warmth of companionship. Eli had given him a gift more precious than gold, more powerful than fire, more lasting than any treasure he had ever known: hope and friendship. The dragon and the boy flew farther, over valleys dotted with wildflowers and mountains capped with snow. Carveth taught Eli how to lean with the wind, how to notice the currents that could lift them higher, and how to glide safely across the skies. The boy learned quickly, laughing whenever they swooped low or turned sharply over a cliff. His joy was contagious, filling the dragon's heart with light and energy. Do you think we can see the stars soon?" Eli asked after a long glide. His voice was soft now, tired but happy. "I want to see them like you do. I want to know why they shine so bright." Carveth nodded, his golden eyes reflecting the sun. "Yes, we will see the stars tonight. And many more nights after that. There is much in this world that humans and dragons have yet to discover together. Life is wide and time is precious. You have reminded me of that, little one." The boy smiled, feeling proud. He had been the one to reach out, the one to touch the dragon's claw, the one to remind him that life was not over. And now, as they flew, he understood that courage, kindness, and hope could change even the oldest and strongest creatures. Carveth looked down at the world below, rivers winding like silver ribbons, forests stretching endlessly, and mountains rising majestically. He had seen all of this before, but never like this, never with the joy of companionship. For the first time he felt truly alive, not just as a dragon who had survived centuries, but as a creature who mattered to someone else, as a being whose presence could make the world brighter. The sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of gold, pink, and violet. Carveth and Eli circled high above a valley, watching the colors stretch across the land. The boy's hand rested gently on the dragon's scales, and the dragon felt warmth in his chest, a fire of life that no age could diminish. "Tomorrow," Eli said softly, "we can go even farther. Over the mountains, maybe to the oceans. There is so much to see." "Yes," Carveth rumbled. "The world is full of wonders, and now we will see them together. We have all the time we need, and we will make every moment count." As night fell, stars began to appear, small points of light scattered across the dark sky. Carveth tilted his head toward them, letting Eli see the constellations as dragons had done for centuries. The boy's eyes shone with amazement. "Look at them," Eli whispered. "They are beautiful." "Yes," Carveth said. "And now we will see them together. Life has given us a new dawn, and this is just the beginning." The dragon and the boy glided silently above the mountains, the wind carrying them forward. The world was wide and full of possibilities. The dangers of the past, the loneliness of centuries, the weight of time, all of it had vanished, replaced by hope, trust, and friendship. Carveth was no longer preparing to die. He was ready to live, to explore, and to share the skies with the small, fearless human who had reminded him of the joy of life. And so, together they flew into the new dawn, toward adventures untold, under skies that stretched forever, and stars that waited for them above. The ancient dragon had found a reason to live again. And the human boy had found a friend who would carry him across the world, showing him that courage, kindness, and hope could change everything. The world was wide. The skies were open. Life was theirs.